Okay. Today we're talking about using authentic language with tasks, and I'm sure that probably all of you already use tasks, but I thought this could be a nice review of really good activities to use in your classrooms, and maybe you'll find a new one, hopefully. These are the ideas of Dr. Lin Feng, but they are not. They're very common activities that we use in language teaching, the world of English language teaching, I should say. So we are talking about promoting authentic language specifically, and we'll talk about what that is. We'll talk about the importance of authentic language use, the criteria of what makes a task, different types of tasks, and considerations for task implementation, which, if you aren't sure of implementation, it means doing the task. So now obviously you all know how important English is. In the world, we have 1.5 billion English speakers. And I'd like to point something out here. Most of these speakers, I think more than half, are not native English speakers. Right? Most of the world's English speakers are non-native. So I bring that up because I think, we many times we think, oh, we need a native speaker, a native speaker, a native speaker. We need native speakers. But actually, there are so many people in the world that are not native speakers and who speak fantastic English. And we have to get used to all of those kinds of English, like all of those different accents, the dialects, the vocabulary. So it's important to acknowledge all the different kinds of Englishes, world Englishes, because our students will be communicating a lot with other non-native speakers, also with some native speakers, but probably a lot of non-native speakers. So, again, the goal of many of our learners are to communicate internationally. Again, lots of non-native speakers. And of course, we know you all know, speaking is not easy to master, right? There's not a lot of opportunities to practice. A lot of our students are shy, and maybe they feel more comfortable with controlled responses or very short answers. And as we know, when you are in a conversation with someone, that is not controlled practice at all. And if you have short answers, that could stunt the conversation. So, talking about authentic language, that is basically real language and something that you create in the moment, like you do in conversation. So listen and repeat. This is really not authentic because you're listening and you're repeating. You're not creating any of that language yourself. It doesn't mean that it's a bad activity. It's just to clarify what is inauthentic and what is authentic, right? A lot of times we need all of these kinds of language in when we are learning. But just to clarify, our goal today is to try and be as authentic as possible. That's our language goal. So fill in the blanks. Also, it's not very authentic. You don't go out into the world and, a person doesn't say, "Hi, would you like a today?" And then wait for you to fill in the blank, right? That doesn't happen. Role play is getting more authentic, right? Describing a picture so that the listener can identify it among three pictures, right? Choose the picture you're describing. That's definitely more authentic. Ordering food at a restaurant, very authentic. So, task-based language teaching is an approach to language teaching that aims to develop learners' communicative competence by engaging them in meaning-focused communication through the performance of tasks. Basically, we want learners to have to speak and accomplish or achieve something, do something that is not language related. So let's talk about the criteria of a task. A task is an activity in which a person engages to attain an objective, achieve something, accomplish something, and it requires the comprehension or production of meaningful messages. So this is very similar to the communicative, approach, this is part of the communicative approach. This is more specific in that there is something to accomplish that's not language related, generally. Not always, but that's really the goal with task-based instruction. You have meaningful language communication along with accomplishing a language unrelated task. And I will give you examples, of course. So, examples of real life communicative tasks: ordering food at a restaurant, scheduling a meeting with a colleague, finding a solution to a work problem. One very real communicative task that's happening to me right now in Kazakh and Russian is trying to figure out transportation to Kostanay or to other tourist destinations in Kazakhstan. So I am learning, about Kazakh and Russian tourist destinations and how to get there, and having meaningful conversations about transportation in Kazakh and Russian with the help of my Yandex translator. So yeah. What are other examples of real life communicative tasks that you can think of? And feel free to type in the chat box if you want, or you can unmute and say it.
Can I add some example?
Yeah,
from real life, from my life. I think that when I was a child, and our teacher sent our email to the American students, and I think that it was like a real conversation, real communication, kind of.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
now,
that's great.
it would be maybe weird to send some students. If I will do some, I thought for my students maybe I could do it, but I'm not sure. This we
Oh, you think so?
we've sent
Why would
letters.
it be
Oh,
weird?
sorry. No,
Why would it be weird?
I don't know. Maybe they don't. Maybe chat in Instagram or some in some emails. I don't know.
Oh, I think
I don't know
there's a lot of
how to
Americans that.
start this process.
Hmm,
Yeah.
I see. I'm sure there are communities on Instagram and stuff that uh, are, I might search for like a pen pal. That's the word that we call it, a pen pal. So if you search for Instagram, like international pen pals,
Oh, okay, okay.
and then just make sure to look for school teachers. And we don't say school teachers, we usually say K
Stuff.
through 12,
Oh, okay.
kindergarten through 12th grade. So, like, if you're looking for eighth grade, you can say eighth grade, international pen pal, kind of start there. I'm so sorry. I actually am strange and I don't have any social media. So I can't tell you where to go.
Okay, no
But I
problem.
would just start there with Instagram and eighth grade teachers and international pen pal. And if I find out anything, I would be happy to pass your information along.
Oh, thank you.
If I know, yeah, my world is university. So, but if I
Yes.
find a school teacher, then I can let you know.
Thank you.
And
Anyway.
Olga says here, make a post or write a comment. So that's a good one too. But yeah, that's also a great example of a real life communicative task is they have to, write in English to communicate. So, and complete the task. So yeah, thank you. Any other, oh, maybe Olga meant make a post or write a comment on a post as a communicative task. And yes, that is very true. If the students feel comfortable and if that's, in the United States, we have a lot of laws around children and the internet. So, like, I I don't know how old you have to be to have a Facebook account or Instagram, but if you are allowed to have Instagram or, you know, TikTok, whatever, for sure, a great task-based activity would be to watch a clip or, a short, like a little video of someone's Instagram or TikTok, and then post a comment. Obviously the video's in English and the comment should be in English. So that would be a great task-based activity, as long as it's all legal. So, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about what the criteria of a task are. Again, we're focusing on meaning. That is the number one most important thing, is meaning. Learners should use their own resources, which means they don't have sentence starters in front of them, or you can provide scaffolding, but generally with task-based instruction, they have to find their own language. They don't have grammar charts or anything to help them, because once again, so like with task-based instruction, excuse me, we are trying to help them find the language that they've already learned. It's not, I mean, of course, practice grammar as well, but part of practicing grammar and also part of learning, right? A big part of learning is trying to remember something that you learned before without seeing it immediately. And this is true for anything that you're learning, right? Whether it's English or basketball or piano, right? It's important to first try and access the information that you already have and then add as necessary. Another really important thing in task-based learning is that there's a communicative gap. A gap means a hole, or a space with nothing. It's empty. And we'll talk more about that. And then number 4, it's not always, but usually there's a non-linguistic outcome, meaning there has to be some goal that doesn't focus on language. It focuses on something other than language. So our first activity here is Lynn had her students draw 4 pictures without any words, and it had to be a story from their lives. It had to tell a story, but obviously you don't see words here. So students worked in pairs. Student A drew pictures and then gave student B these 4 pictures. Then student A read her story or told her story, and student B had to make the order of the pictures. So I will tell you this story, and you can do this activity where please tell me what order do the pictures go in.
Okay.
So once again, I will read a story and you should choose the order of the pictures. So when I was 6, I was playing with my sister outside. We had so much fun. After a while, I decided to go inside and hide in my grandmother's closet. Somehow I fell asleep and slept there for 4 or 5 hours. When I woke up, I went to the living room and found my mom frightened. She told me everyone was so worried and looked for me outside for hours. What should the order of these pictures be?
The first one, DCAB.
That's right, DCAB. Exactly. So, and Adele also got it perfect, DCAB. So this is not only does this help with speaking, it's multiple things, right? We have well, first we have something for students to do with their hands by creating. I always love creation. I want my students to create. But then they create a story also, right? They draw, they create a story, and then they say their story, and then the other student has to listen. And of course, both students can create stories and write their stories, and then they switch roles. So here, the gap is, the gap is the story, the information. It's an information gap. So here we have, let's talk about what's not a task. Here we have this listen and repeat. All of the information is given here. So these 3 are exercises: listen and repeat, fill in the blanks, role play, given with sentences, and supplying the missing. mainly when the students have all of the information, those are exercises, those are not tasks. But when there's information that is missing, that's when it becomes a task. So if we're going to talk about what's a task, what's not a task, having students debate who the best footballer is in groups. Do you think this is a task or an exercise?
Exercise, maybe?
This one's a little bit tricky. It's on the line. It could be both if you add making a decision, right? They have to decide who is the best footballer. It's also a little bit, even without that decision, it can also be a task in that there is an opinion gap here. Students are finding out their classmates' opinion. If you do have this kind of debate, I always like to tell my students, I will ask about your classmates' opinions because then it solidifies that it is a task, right? They have to get information that they don't have. They have to get their classmates' opinions. All right. Having students answer would you rather questions in pairs. Would you rather have 5 brothers or 5 sisters? Would you rather live in the sky or the ocean?
Task, maybe. It's closer to
Mm-hmm.
task.
Yeah. You have to get an answer, right, in order to complete this. It's an information gap. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ainur.
You're welcome.
And then the last one, having students tell a story about being scared to a partner. Oops, sorry. This also is not necessarily a task, but it does use their own language resources. But there's no official non-linguistic outcome. So it's not exactly a task. Is it still a good activity? Yeah, for sure. So if we look at this activity, this is, we have Mia is ordering food from a server in a cafeteria. One student is Mia, another student is the server. Based on the information you have, make a conversation like this. Could I have a hamburger? Right. You have students make a conversation like this. Both students have this same information. Sorry. Or, sorry, both students do not have the same information. Mia wants this, but the server, this is what the server can offer. So Mia can ask, I'd like, or she can say, I'd like a hamburger, please. And the server, what can the server say? I'm sorry, I don't have a hamburger, but I have a ham sandwich. So Mia has to listen to the server and she can decide, okay, I will have a ham sandwich, or no, I don't want a ham sandwich. I'm halal, right? I want beef, for example. So this is a task, and right, so student A has this information, student B has this information. So this meets the 4 criteria of a task because here we're focusing on meaning. There's a communicative gap. Students are using their own language. They are not using a dialogue. Um, they can use some sentence starters, but generally they should make their own language. And there is a non linguistic outcome, which is Mia has to place an order at a restaurant. A server or a student B has to take the order. Here is another communicative language, communication gap language task. This is spot the difference. So maybe you have used these before, and there are many. There are many available in language books. Honestly, I find these difficult to find on the internet. Just looking for spot the difference photos. So I would say trying to find spot the difference in language textbooks would be easier. But I mean, it's still possible to find online, but they're called spot the difference. And um, you all see this picture.
Mhm.
I have a different picture.
Mhm.
The way this activity works is we are going to talk about the picture that we see. You know, student A has one picture, student B has a different picture, and they have to talk together to find the differences between the pictures. Of course, the students should not show each other the pictures.
Mhm.
So they have to find, let's say, three differences. So, for example, in my picture, I see a little girl hiding behind some bushes,
Mhm.
and there is a bumblebee
Mhm.
next. Sorry, not a bumblebee, but excuse me. Sorry, I messed up. I'm looking at our picture, but my picture, there is a blue butterfly next to her. And there's also a woman standing at a tree, and above her is a blue butterfly, a
Mhm.
blue butterfly. And then there's a little squirrel, a brown squirrel, and there's also a pink cloud above the little girl.
Mm.
So, what were the three differences?
Uh, in my picture, I see the girl,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
under um, I've forgotten this word to
Above?
say. Ah, yeah, above the bushes, like tulip maybe bushes, and I'm sorry, uh, red butterfly is one difference. The second
Mhm,
is white sky, and
mhm.
squirrel. I've forgotten about third one.
That's okay. That's all right. Yeah, so I said she has a pink cloud, there's a blue butterfly,
Mhm.
and I also said the bee
Uh,
is a blue butterfly, but I'm wrong. I'm sorry. It's a hummingbird. I'll show you
mm,
the picture here. So we've got the hummingbird, the butterfly, and the pink cloud, which is different from the red
oh,
butterfly, the bumblebee, and the white
yeah.
cloud.
Mhm.
So you can do this with three differences or 10, you know, it depends. But, and this is also a great activity for large groups because, you know, it's pair work and it's pretty easy. You can pass it out and, of course, explain what how to do the activity and even model because I think this is one activity that is fantastic, but can also become very easily silent because students are sharing each other's pictures, right? And just looking instead of talking. So maybe having some kind of incentive for students to continue talking instead of just looking. I imagine with school children, some will absolutely talk, but maybe some others might not be as willing to talk. So just thinking of ways around that. So some more task types. We're going to talk about discourse types, which discourse means essentially saying more than one sentence. Sometimes it means conversation. So with communicative gaps, remember gap means hole or empty space. So with an information gap, that's like spot the difference. Once student A had some information, student B had different information, and they had to communicate to find the differences. But there's also an opinion gap. So, for example, like the debate about who is the best footballer. The gap is that students have to get to know each other's opinions. That is the opinion gap. Then decision making, which we will talk about in a couple of minutes, and then we will also look at some more language focused task based instructions called a dictogloss, which maybe you've heard, or maybe some of you have used a dictogloss activity. This activity I use all the time in my classes. I really love it. Basically, you make groups with your students, and or you can make pairs, but if you do with pairs, I'll describe that situation first. Student A can watch half of a video, and student B watches the other half of the video. It can be with language, it can be without language. It could also be a text. Maybe student A reads the first half of the text, student B reads the second half. And then they get together and they have to explain to each other what they read or what they watched. Or maybe they have a list of questions about the other half of the video or text that they didn't have. They have to get that information from the other student. You can do this with asking them to take notes, or you can give them a graphic organizer, or you can just ask them to describe their half of the text or the video to their partner. Another way to do jigsaw reading, and this is also great for large classes, is you put students in groups of 4. Each group reads a part of the text, and then they discuss it to make sure they understand. Then, after their group understands, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, and you make new groups with all of the students who are 1, all of the students who are 2, right? They all go together. So now you have all of the different parts of the texts, one person from each part of the text in one group, and they can tell each other about the rest of the texts. Yeah, this I really like to do with lengthy texts. It makes it easier to handle in class. So that's jigsaw reading and viewing. Now, for a decision-making task, um, maybe, for example, you are proposing, right, your students, right? This is the activity for your students. The students are proposing 3 activities to the student activities office at your university, or for you all, for your elementary school, middle school, high school, wherever it is. So students will work in a group of 3 to decide on 3 activities to propose or to ask for. So students should spend 2 minutes to think of 3 activities on their own, individually. Then the students will share their ideas with their group. If their activities are the same, then they should come up with new activities. So each group has 9 ideas for activities. After they have 9 ideas, then they need to talk about which ones are the best, and then they should decide on 3 activities. So here we have this decision-making task. But I love this one because it can be very, actually, I love this one and the jigsaw because it's so versatile, meaning you can use it in so many different ways. Um, we have to make decisions all the time. Maybe you can give students a picture of a closet with different clothes, and they have to decide what they should wear that day, right? Or what the teacher should wear. Um, or maybe you have there's a sport that you need to play or that you want to play, but you can't decide on that sport. What does the school offer? What sport is expensive, so maybe you can't play it. You can have, there are so many different decisions to make. The possibilities are endless, endless possibilities for making decisions. So, but for you all, what types of decisions can you ask your students to make in a classroom task? What do you think? Can type in the chat if you have some ideas.
Maybe
Maybe what's
maybe
Go ahead,
decision.
Ida.
Oh, okay. A decision for students who are late, and they should like find out the rules, maybe, kind of. Who's late? They
Like they
should do
should
something, and they should say some of the rules.
ah
Maybe, I don't know.
so deciding on what is the punishment for late
Yeah, yes,
students.
yes, yes, yes. Correct.
Yes, I love that. I love making the class rules with my students. I think that's great. Yeah. That's a that's a really good decision making task. Yeah, for sure. Thank you. If anyone else thinks of one, please unmute or type it in the chat. There are so many. I don't know if any of you have tried that, making like deciding class rules with your students. But I do love it. I think it's a very egalitarian, well, maybe not but yeah. I think it's a really powerful thing for students to be a part of. Yeah. Okay, so this is Dictogloss. And with Dictogloss, you will choose a short text with interesting content, and you will read the text at a normal speed for students to take notes. Then you will read the text at a slower speed for students to take more notes. And then you get your students in pairs. And after they get in pairs, they discuss what they discuss their notes, they compare. And then after they compare, you can read it again and you read it again at normal speed. And then you have the students reconstruct the text in pairs with as many details as possible. And then you can give them the original text so they can compare and make corrections. Or you could collect their work and give them feedback. So that is a dictogloss. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. I do really recommend this activity. I haven't used it myself yet, but I always have plans to. So I think it could be a good one. So here are some other, just to review the discourse types. In description, we have describing. In the spot the difference, we have narration, telling a story. And just to remind you, discourse means saying more than one sentence at a time. Then we have instruction, how to make something, how to give directions, how to solve a math problem. And then stating an opinion and supporting it, this argumentation. So task-based instruction can help students, I'm so sorry, can really help students with all of these discourse types. So another discourse type that we haven't talked about yet is sequencing. And in this activity, it will be a pair activity, and students should get 4 pictures labeled A, B, C, and D. And this is just an example, but there are many different different sequences that you can do. But this is obviously how to make tea. So student A gets 2 cards, student B gets 2 cards, and they can't show each other. So they have to describe what each card is doing. So if I'm student A says, I have a picture with a hot teapot, and picture B, or my other picture, shows tea leaves being poured into the teapot. Then student B says, I have in my first picture hot water being poured into the teapot. In my other picture, I have tea being poured into the cup. Which do you think is first? Student A might say, I think it's picture B. I have B, put tea leaves in the pot first. Then student B says, and then my picture C, you put water in. Student A says, then picture A, because we have to let the tea steep. We have to let the leaves and the water sit for a little bit. And then the last one is D, we can finally drink the tea. So again, modeling this for students will be very important, because obviously if the students see each other's pictures, then they will just arrange the pictures
Mm-hmm.
without speaking. One way to do this is, you can let the students see the pictures
Mm-hmm.
and then you can collect the pictures. So they have to remember and then they have to use their speech. Um, but if you trust your students, then you can let them keep the pictures. And then, of course, you can change this to maybe a more difficult process or, um, you know, solving a math problem, or it doesn't have to be food focused, although
Mm-hmm.
food is very exciting and wonderful. So I do recommend using food.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because I love food. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that's sequencing. This is not just practicing sequencing language, but it's also practicing giving instructions. So we've got two things here. So now I'm going to ask you all, what kinds of tasks have you all used in your classroom? Go ahead, type it in the chat if you'd like. Or, yeah, Ainur, I saw you unmuted. What kinds of tasks have you used?
It's kind of a jigsaw task, but I'm not sure.
Mm.
I show the this the oh, I'm so sorry. I show the
Mm. Yeah.
very short cartoon, and I don't
Mhm.
show the end. And I divide some groups, and I give the picture, and they should like finish their own story with help of the picture. Kind of this. I don't. I'm not
Mhm.
sure. Maybe it's not jigsaw.
I love this.
Or
No, it's not a jigsaw, but it is a task and
uh-huh.
it's a great task. Another way. Yeah.
Or the second
Or,
task, I show the cartoon without words, and they should
mhm.
put their own words, like
Yes.
make a voice for this cartoon. This
Mhm.
kind of.
I love that
Mm-hmm.
one too. Another great example of task based instruction, right?
Mm-hmm.
The students have to create the dialogue
Mm-hmm.
for that cartoon. And there's a lot of different things you can do with
Mm-hmm.
that. They can watch the cartoon and then in their groups write it together,
Mm-hmm.
or they could even do it in real time, right? Pretend to be the cartoons and see if they can uh, produce the language
Mm-hmm.
in real time while the video is showing. That might be for a little bit more advanced students, but I mean, I can't even do that in English. So, but some people are really good at it, at
Mm-hmm.
improvising,
Mm-hmm.
and they really enjoy it. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
And if anyone else has another task that they use, please feel free to unmute or type it in the chat. Or if you use one that we've talked about here. Okay. So when we're considering um, doing task-based instruction, remember that implementation just means doing or um, attempting to do. We have to think of, the different parts of implementing the task project. So there's a pre-task stage, maybe pre-teaching vocabulary or giving very clear instructions, modeling the how to actually do the task. And then you can also, modify or change, manipulate the pairing or the grouping of participants. Of course, thinking about how you need to plan for this kind of activity, because sometimes task based instructions can take a bit of planning. But as you can see, like the storytelling task, that doesn't take any planning. You take out a piece of paper have the students cut it into 4 pieces.
Mhm.
They get 2 minutes to brainstorm. They draw their pictures and then they trade and they tell the story. And they have to produce everything. But then you have other activities like the dictogloss that maybe you have to think about what story might be good for that. Or you have the jigsaw task where you have to provide a video or some kind of text for them. So planning out how you are going to use task-based instruction or task-based activities in your class, of course, just like any other method. And you can repeat tasks, right? All of these can be repeated with different materials. And then you can also think about your post-task requirement and review. So the pre-task stage, again, giving instructions, studying the task materials, vocabulary. Then, of course, what kinds of pairing or grouping will work for that task. And then planning time, if you need planning time. If you give students more planning time, they will have more fluent and complex language use. And I also want to stress, I know we're all short on time. We're all short on time in the classroom and outside of the classroom. But inside the classroom, I tend to be a slower teacher. That's just my style, like my style, period, in life. I'm slow. That's just how I am. But I like to give students a lot of time in the class, more than maybe other teachers. And true, some students, they will finish it very quickly and then be bored. So sometimes I have another task for them to do. But I think a lot of times we think students don't need as much time, but especially with something where they have to create all of the language themselves, you might want to at first give a little bit more time than you think you need to, just to begin with. And then, of course, repeat the task with different materials, or you can do the same materials and that will just help students produce that language more. And then for the post-task requirement, you can have the students tell the class their decision or the solution to their problem, or they can submit their work, they can review language, or they can reflect on how they did in that task. So we've covered a lot. The importance of authentic language use, what makes a task, different types of tasks, and how to implement or put your task into your classroom world and actually do your task. So thank you all so much for coming today. And if you have a question, please ask. But if not, that's all I have today for you. So hopefully it was useful.
Thank you. It was very useful.
Thank you, Ainur.
I see you the
Thank you
next
so much
time.
for coming. All right, I'll see you next week.
Hi.
Thank you all for coming. I'll see you next week. Have a wonderful week, and hopefully next week it will be spring. We'll hope, right? Have a great week.